Moving on, and one of the leading reasons many corn producers don't graze their crop residue is the fact that they don't know any cattle producers who need it. The problem led to the creation of the Crop Residue Exchange Program. This online resource originated as a means to facilitate those type of connections and has grown more popular since its inception. This week we spoke with Mary Drewnoski to discuss how the program works and why there's been an uptick in use from cattle producers seeking a grazing arrangement. Taking a look at drought conditions around the country this year, and it's plain to see that grazing conditions haven't been too favorable for many cattle producers. With very little stored forage in those areas most affected by drought, this particular weather pattern has left them looking for alternative grazing sources for their cattle this winter. That's where the Crop Residue Exchange Program can be of assistance.
So there's a lot of interest in finding places that do have forage, especially forage at a reasonable price. And one of the benefits of Nebraska, as well as Iowa and the Midwest, is that we do have corn residue. And if there is people who are willing to take care of cattle, that could be a really great opportunity for some of these producers that are in drought-stressed areas to have their cattle maintained through the winter at a more reasonable price than what it would be for them to haul in feed, and then also result in some extra income for producers in the Midwest that would take in cattle. Right now, we tend to have probably 3 times the amount of traffic from cattle producers looking for forage than we do listings from people who have forage. And in particular, this year, we've seen an uptick, of course, of people looking. So if you do have forage available and you're willing to have somebody come and graze it, go ahead and put it on there, and you might make a connection and hopefully make a little bit of money in the process.
Over the years, the Crop Residue Exchange Program has evolved in several ways. For crop producers who sign up for the program, you aren't necessarily going to be responsible for the care of the cattle unless that's something you choose to do. On the other hand, cattle producers aren't limited to use of land that is strictly for crop production.
The way this is set up is people who are providing cattle care can list where they're going to be taking care of cattle. They can list the fields, and they can list anything they want to about what cattle care is provided. But also people who just want to say, hey, you can come graze this field, pay me for it, and walk away, so to speak. That's also available on the website. So the way we've tried to set it up is that it can be multi-use. And originally, it was about crop residue, hence the name. However, we have made modifications over the years so that producers can put up pasture if they want to. They can put up cover crops. I mean, basically anything that they have available for grazing, they can put it on the website and let other cattle producers know about it.
If this online resource is something that you choose to use, you can be sure your information will remain private and secure, and the process will be very user-friendly.
Yeah, so the way the website's set up is it's pretty user-friendly, but the idea is that the first screen you go to on Crop Residue Exchange is a home page where you can either click that I have forage available, so I'm a farmer or have forage, or I'm a cattle producer. So we'll start out with I have forage available. Basically, you click on a button, you do have to register. That registration, the only thing that it's used for is basically to allow you to come back into the site and modify the listings. For instance, if you make a connection and you don't want to list it so you don't have anybody else contacting you about it, you can take it down. We need you to register so that only you can modify those things. And because it was designed for people who had particular land that they had available for grazing, you actually have a location on there where you bring up a Google map, essentially, and you can just identify the field, pasture, whatever it is that you have available for grazing, and then you can list details about it. And those details, it can be wide open. We do have some prompts like, water availability, is it fenced, those types of things. And then basically you would go ahead and you would put in your contact information and your preference. So would I prefer to get an email, or would I prefer to get a phone call? The only people who can get access to that information are people who register on the cattle producer side. So they have to register, and then if they're interested, they'll basically click on it. It'll open up your contact info, and so they can contact you. We're basically trying not to be in the middle. So we often actually don't know when connections are made. We just know when something's delisted.
If you've never entered an agreement like this and aren't sure how to proceed, the Crop Residue Exchange Program has you covered with helpful resources to navigate those waters.
Again, it can be used for any type of forage resource. And there's also on the homepage, there's actually a tab called Resources. And on Resources, we have a couple documents. One in particular is a document that can help people who maybe have never actually developed a rental agreement for something like crop residue. It just provides a list of questions for you to consider and to talk to the other person about so you guys can develop an agreement. We do think having a written agreement is very important for any kind of rental situation, just because it does help each party be clear on what the expectations are and know really what they're getting into.